Yo, people, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Saeed TV. We got the debate show on a Friday because the game's tomorrow, so we thought, why not chuck it in today? Early debate show on a Friday night. You know, where could you be better than on a Friday night talking about Man United? And with the boys, we got man like Kempy. What are you saying, Kempy? You good?
What are you saying, lads? Yeah, all good, mate. Absolutely buzzing. So, what are you saying, boys? Friday night, who'd want to be out? You might as well be here talking about United. What's better, eh?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. We got Usman in the building. Usman, what are you saying, man? You ready? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I've seen the text messages, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Man's got his guns on show, but I ain't scared. So as always, make sure you stop a like, people, subscribe to the channel. Let's go. It's gonna be a good one. Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We got a man like James ready. What are you saying, James? You ready for the show?
Yeah, man, ready. Absolutely ready. Can't wait. Murtough madness or what? Bring it on, Saeed. Let's go.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. And then we got the chief on the train there. We got man like Cams. What are you saying, man? The Ajax shirt there. Bit of nostalgia. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you guys?
I'm
Yeah,
good.
man. Good,
You
good,
well? You well?
good, man. Can't lie to you. Good, good. Everything's all good. People talk about Mbappe, man. Listen, I don't know if you guys have seen it now. It's just come out right now that Kylian Mbappe is not going to the tour for PSG, which is crazy. It's come out of nowhere. People left out of the Paris Saint-Germain squad for the preseason tour in Japan. Decision made by PSG tonight. And I think it follows on to say, what did it say here as well? It said here, understand PSG consider Mbappe for sale starting from today. PSG feel Kylian wants to leave for free in 2024. He did not communicate anything yet, despite Al Khalifa's public statement. PSG decided to exclude Kylian from Japan tournament. If only, lads, if only Qatar was here, man, we could have dreamed. But listen, man, it is what it is, man. Kylian Mbappe, would anyone not have him? Would anyone
I
not have
wouldn't.
him?
Not
Anyone
as a
here?
chance. No.
I
I don't.
wouldn't.
I don't want that drama. I don't want the
I
drama.
wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't.
No. But he's like honestly, right
It's
up there with
tough.
the best
It's tough
players in
to
the world.
say, but I wouldn't. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough to say.
With what Ten Hag's
Bro,
building, like I just wouldn't leave it.
listen, man. You
Saeed,
know what
right?
James, we're talking about? We're talking about Burton madness here. I'd actually like be the chief. If Kylian Mbappe was to come to Manchester United and you was here talking about John Murtough, I think everybody was doubting John Murtough. Be like, you know what? Fair play to him, man. He's got Kylian Mbappe here, man. One of the best players, if not the best player in the world right now. And you're coming on in and saying, nah, not really. Like, come on, James, man. This will get you
Ridiculous.
Saeed,
arrested, man.
I've stood outside Old Trafford with you for the last 2 or 3 years, and all you've done is moan about player leaks and moan about the state of the dressing room and moan about players wanting to go home at 4 o'clock and not wanting to drive home in the dark and all this kind of nonsense. Like, I've listened to you mouth on about that, mouth on about player issues, and whether it's Lingard, Henderson, Shaw, whoever it is, whatever leaks
It's
are happening, that's all
Mbappe.
I've heard. You now want a player. Listen, guys, one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. Not doubting that. But we just got rid of one drama queen, like in Ronaldo last season, and you want to bring someone in who thinks he's in control of the club. He wants a £1 billion over 10 years, and you want to bring him in after everything that Ten Hag has worked to rebuild from last year. Not having it, mate. Last season was a fresh start for me with Eric Ten Hag. I think he sorted out the dressing room, and yes, it's very, very hard to say no to Kylian Mbappe because the guy is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Instantly makes us better, unreal footballer. But he brings a lot of problems that I think Eric Ten Hag has gone a long way to fix him.
Yeah, I hear
How
all of
did
that, but
did this, bro? I just think that's complete nonsense. If I'm being honest, with all due respect. I mean, I understand the point that you're trying to make. Obviously, with the Ronaldo situation, quite clearly he's got an ego, etc. But listen, we don't even know what the truth is about this 1 billion. This is an offer that they put on the table. This is an Mbappe requesting to get paid 1 billion over 10 years. He hasn't come out and said this is the kind of money that I'm asking for. That's the offer that they put on the table. So you can't put that on his door. Yes, he has got an ego. Yes, he has got a couple of issues. I'm not denying that for a second. And some of the things that he's done for me have irked me as well. But which world class player? We're talking an upper echelon. The best of the best doesn't have an ego. I mean, a lot of them do. Even Messi, to an extent, you could say he's got a bit of an
yeah,
ego.
Messi.
Granted, he goes
Yeah.
about it one sec. Granted, he goes about it a different way to other people. But There's been numerous occasions when he's been substituted off at PSG and the guy's been throwing strops, but it doesn't get televised as much because the manner in which Ronaldo does it is completely different. Obviously, he's fully throwing his toilet at the problem, but Messi shrugs his shoulders, are being subbed off, etc., etc. Look, again, Mbappe is not perfect. I'm not saying that for a second, and I understand the sentiment that we somewhat fixed the dressing room leagues, etc. But for me personally, right, there's a lot of snakes in that dressing room still. I mean, I'm not going to mention individual players, but there's a lot of players within that dressing room are still doing leagues, and they're not even fit to tie Mbappe's laces. So by all means, get rid of them guys first before we even start trying to stub our nose at one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. For me, to say no to Mbappe is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's actually ridiculous. I mean, the reason you put forward, okay, fair enough, you can make a case for that, but his ability speaks for itself. I mean, we haven't got striker starters. Okay, granted, he might not want to play strike, but him and Rashford potentially can obviously, be a fluid attacking line, obviously, with whoever's on the right wing. But yeah, for me, if we say no to Mbappe, you haven't won the league in how long? Beggars can't be choosers. We're talking about one of the greatest players in the world, and we're out here saying no. Nah, man, that's just madness to me. I can't lie.
Tactically, Statman, Cam, what are you saying? Tactically, does he fit this squad? Does he give us a lot? Like, what are you saying?
I mean, he could do. I think right the way through, Ten Hag's looked to sort of mix his own principles with a lot of the United traditions in terms of as many transitions as possible. So I think from that sort of side, obviously, if you're trying to play in a transitional system, you want players that are quick and can get in behind, and you can't get anyone better than Mbappe for that. I think even when Ten Hag first came in, he said about Rashford that the only player who's even close to as good on the last line as Rashford is Mbappe, who's probably a bit better than him. So I think it can definitely work. It's just all the other stuff that comes with it, and obviously the culture. The culture is probably the most important thing in terms of making sure that your success is sustained. So it depends if Mbappe is able to adapt to that, then great. I think we don't really know because obviously it's such a circus at PSG. It's impossible to really tell how people are going to act outside that environment. So if he would come in and sort of act like everybody else and buy into things, 100% you take him because he's one of the best players in the world. But if he's going to come in and mess up the culture and possibly end up throwing out another manager, I don't think it's worth it because I think even without having Mbappe, within the next few years, United are on a trajectory that it won't be long before we're competing for some of the best trophies anyway. So, yeah, Mbappe probably speeds that up by a year or two if he comes in and adapts to it. But there's a big risk there between either you win some things a little bit quicker than you were going to earlier, otherwise maybe a year or 2 seasons earlier. Otherwise, it can mess up the entire project. So it's whether you want to take that risk, really.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Last bit on Mbappe says Paris Saint-Germain are convinced that Kylian Mbappe has already agreed terms to join Real Madrid on a free deal. They wanted a new deal or leave now by July 15. Nothing at all. Mbappe out for preseason tournament and considered for sale. PSG want to sell. It's kind of getting a bit sticky because then Kylian Mbappe is wanting to get it for free. You know what I mean? So then obviously he can get maybe a bonus deal on top of that. So it's getting a bit sticky, man. So listen, tune in later on and let's see how the story develops, man. But big up to everybody who's here. 500 people in the building. Make sure you like the video right now. If you're not doing that right now, then I don't know what you're doing, man. But please hit the like button on the video. We got a lot to talk about, man. A lot of players are leaving Man United, finally. We're actually getting some players sold. The first one that's getting sold is Anthony Elanga. We got a here we go today for Anthony Elanga. He'll be joining Nottingham Forest by the end of the week. Permanent transfer verbally agreed. Fee close to 15 million to Man United. Green light also from the player. Here we go. Forest keep pushing to sign Dean Henderson and Ona Aina. James, good bit of business. Should we got more for him? What are you saying? Is that fair business, James, there? 15 million-ish?
I think it's a pretty good price, to be honest. If you speak to a lot of fans, they just wanted him out the door. They were saying 5-10 million. It depends what you scale it by, right? Like by United's business of the past, which is what a lot of people are going to scale it by, then it's really good. He's the 9th player in 10 years or 11 seasons that we sold for £10 million or more. So we're not used to selling players for any kind of profit. Bear in mind, it is all profit because he came in through the youth setup as well. Well, in from Sweden and then through the youth setup. So it is really good business. I think if you'd have offered almost every United fan £15 million for Anthony Elanga, they'd snap your hand off. And it kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think he was one of the first people that we thought we'd sell. And I think I've said it before, but people have got a lot of PTSD with this kind of, not the ownership, obviously, the ownership's separate. The ownership is a joke. But in terms of like the people on the board level, people have got a lot of PTSD of the last 10 years, right? And what that makes them unable to do is it makes them unable to see a situation as it is now. And it makes them unable to give credit where it's due now. And if they manage to get rid of Anthony Elanga for 15 million, if they manage to get rid of Dean Henderson for 20 million, if they manage to get rid of Alex Telles, I heard people slating 4 million, but the guy's not like, the guy was unwanted here. And then all of a sudden we negotiate for a bit and raise from 4 to 6. And it's like, there should be credit there as well. I genuinely think people have blinkers on when it comes to whoever it is, whether it's Hargreaves, whether it's like who took over Judge, or whether it's Murtough, whether it's Arnold. I think people have like blinkers on because of what's happened over the past few seasons. And fair enough, we've acted like a joke for year on year on year. But if you look at last summer, we added 3-4 starters to the starting 11. If you look at this summer, we're looking at adding another 3 or 4 starters into the starting 11. We've got rid of someone on 500 grand a week. We've got rid of someone on 375 grand a week. We've got rid of our club captain, who most people didn't want. The captaincy, like we've taken that away from him. So the club's on an upward trajectory. There's no way that anyone can convince me otherwise. Cam said it, like if you bring in Mbappe, you maybe speed things up by a year or two. But I'm fully convinced that Manchester United are on the way back up. I think Ten Hag's doing a fantastic job. And I think the board are supporting him in that as much as they can under the restraints that they are in because of the terrible ownership. I think they're doing well. I really do.
Before I come back to that, Masood says here, can Man City Mbappe at Arsenal? Be honest, guys, they're getting real excited about that right now. Not for me. I think right now they're trying to do more of a project and try and get players to improve on Arteta. They're buying young players as well. So I don't think they're going to go down that route of superstars. I personally think for me, they're gelling up as a team. So yeah, I don't think that will happen for me personally, but who knows? Who knows? You never know. Anyone else think that? Anyone who thinks that we should have got more for Elanga in here? Anyone that thinks that's a reasonable price? Oh, okay, Usman. Okay, go for it. Go for it. What are you saying?
Oh God, James, honest to God, they need to get you on the PR team, man. You almost had me. You almost turned me for a second that you did really well. Listen, that was a great speech, but listen, Swedish international, right? By the way, he plays well for Sweden. But that being said, 15 million, okay, it's not the end of the world. Look, we got him off the books, whatever it may be. But Iwobi went for 40 million. I swear, Brewster went for what, 25 million. That guy that couldn't do it in the championship, absolute dog shit player. And
Ziyech
Liverpool
went
got
for
what,
8 million to Saudi.
Okay, good for him.
We can all pick and choose
So,
who we want, Usman. It doesn't make a point.
I mean, if you let me, did I interrupt you at any point? I don't remember interrupting you.
You didn't, but
So, no, I didn't, James. I let you speak.
Go on.
Oh God, listen, Elanga 15 million, bro. That's like me, right? Being an estate agent and basically patting myself on the back because I've got a house that's 250 grand on the market and I'm selling it for 200 grand. Oh, well done, mate. I've sold the house. It don't mean jack shit because I'm underselling the house. I mean, he's 20 million. Thank you very much. Anthony Gordon went for 45 million. 50 million. You're telling me Elanga's not even worth a third of Anthony Gordon? Oh, come on, have a day off. I mean, I'm sorry. People are gonna sit here and pat obviously him on the back. Oh, he got 6 million for Tellers. Well done, what an achievement, whatever it may be. Henderson's 25 million. If we get we're probably gonna get 15 million for him as well because you can't sell to save our lives. So at the end of the day, the positive is we're getting players off the books, and I agree with that sentiment. Obviously, these players are deadwood essentially, so obviously it's good to get them at the club. But let's not get carried away and start shouting Murtough madness or he's doing an unreal job. I mean, I could have sold Elanga for 15 million. It's not difficult. I mean, he's worth 20 in my eyes. He's worth at least 15 million. It wasn't a hard sale. I'm obviously not going to sign out 25 players. It's not like out of the realms of possibility that they're going to sign another player. I mean, for me, it's nothing to be overly, praising them. I do understand the point of where you said people got blinkers on and people aren't giving credit where credit is due, and I will always give credit where credit is due. But for me personally, I just think this is overacting massively. I mean, it's nothing special. I mean, Man City got what 20 million for a goalkeeper that was essentially playing in League One. Yeah, granted, he's the England under 21 goalkeeper and he's a good goalkeeper. There's no denying that. But they got 20 million or 19 million, whatever the hell it was. I mean, there's been other players up and down the year that Man City are doing X, Y, and Z. They're getting way more money. And we got Elanga who actually started for us for a long period under Oli. Granted, he's not had a good season, but Mason Mount just went for 65 million. You're telling me Elanga's worth 15. So yeah, for me, okay, we're getting players out the door, but we're massively underselling them. So I'm not gonna keep clapping too much, but yeah, it is where it is a start, I guess.
Last week, I'm sure you and Saeed were saying sell Maguire for 20 million. I'm sure you were saying sell Maguire for 20 million, and now you're saying you can sell Elanga for 20. No consistency.
I've said 40 million. I've said 40 million some day dot for Maguire.
Saeed, how much did you say last week?
No, I said between 20 to 30 million.
Saeed said 20
You said 20 million. Rewind the stream. Don't lie. You said 20 million pounds.
I want to go back to this point here. I actually agree with you, James. I think 15 million is a fair price for Elanga. But the thing for me is, though, I think what the feeling is amongst the fan base, especially in my point of view, is that there's no consistency in when we're selling players. I think that's the overarching point. Yes, we've done well in certain other periods, but I think there's certain other periods where I think, for me, United could have got a bit more money. And the underlying point is, do Man United sell well? And I think that the frustration from Man United isn't the case. And that's what I wanted to hear from the Murtough prop people, is that have Man United sold well? It's like today I've asked Danny, and shout out to Danny, he's probably watching, but he's not giving me really an answer. I said, yes or no, have Man United sold well? And he waffled me a statement. I was like, well, there's context to it, etc., which I understand, but the overriding point is, if you're a good seller, you're a good seller. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm speaking, you know what I mean, out of line here. I mean, Cam, is there a feeling that you think that United are doing their best at selling well, or do you think there's room for improvement? What do you think?
No, I think we're selling pretty terribly. It's pretty obvious. Dan James is still our fourth most expensive sale ever. And that was 30 million. And actually, when you look at, speaking of transfers, looking at that transfer, we doubled our money on that. We sell very badly, but the number one thing you can do to start selling well, you talk about these players like Ryan Brewster, you talk about Jordan Ibe, Dominic Solanke that have gone for reasonable fees from Liverpool. You look at other players, all these players that City are suddenly selling. The number one thing you can do to start selling players well is be successful as a club. Once you start winning things and you have a bit of sustained success, you have a good cycle, clubs around the rest of the league, around the rest of Europe, want to buy players that have been involved in that, have had some experience of those training sessions, some experience of that environment, because they think they'll elevate their squad to become winners as well. You look at what City are doing now, it's no real surprise that some of their young players, they put a lot of investment into the academy, obviously, but when you look at how well they're doing with the first team, it's no surprise that people are looking at the academy players that they've got now and saying, hang on, well, if these are the ones that Guardiola is, because obviously all the youth teams are going to play the same way, have the same style, same attributes. If these are the players that are coming through in the Guardiola mold, if these are the players that are training maybe even occasionally with the first team, that's an extra 5-10 million straight away just because the first team is successful. The player themselves doesn't need to do anything different. It's just because the club's successful. I think if you look at a lot of those sort of situations, it's when the club is more successful, you can get a lot more. If we'd won lots of big things over the past few years, Anthony Elanga would probably be 20-25 million pounds. You can probably sell a lot of the other players that we've had. Even Donny van de Beek missed a whole season through injury. If we just come off the back of 3 successive Premier Leagues and maybe a couple of good Champions League runs, got to the final a couple of times, Donny van de Beek, even though he's just come off a season where he's been basically missed the entire thing, he would have been 30-35 million because he's been in and around that environment. I think that's a massive thing that's overlooked here, is that some of these players are worth more in theory. If you look at the dysfunction that we've had around them, these players haven't had enough minutes on the pitch to show what they are, and the club itself doesn't have enough of a strong reputation at this moment for having great footballers that they're actually going to be worth more than their market value. So that's the situation we're in. Yeah. And I think, given that, we're doing better at selling players than we have been for a few years, but we're still pretty poor at it.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think you're right in that aspect. And obviously, the planning that goes onto it, buying the likes of Donny van de Beek and then not having a plan, buying the likes of, let's say, Ahmad and Pellistri when there was no really plan to kind of get them into the team. We spent a lot of money for these guys, and we still don't know yet if they're going to be making the team or not making the team. So there has to be a plan, and that comes within the structure of the football club. The manager, the footballing director, what goes on here? What's the plan? What's the goals? Are we going to get this guy into the team in 2 years' time? Are we going to loan him out? Even the loans for me haven't added any values to the players. Like, they've been shitty loans. Let's be real. Like, some of them have been on loan, like Tae Chung. And yes, it's down to the player to prove his worth, but it's also down to the football club to put them on loans where they can see value. I think Ahmad one was good. I think who else? Who would you say has had a successful loan from these little periods to add their value? And that comes down to the football club finding a possible solution to go and do that and enable to them to play, whether that's through style of football, whether the football club suits what we're trying to do as well. And that's where I think for me, it comes down to. But I don't know how you see it, Kempi. How do you view it in terms of how we're selling and whatnot?
I think Cam's spot on. We're crap at selling and sort of take what we've got kind of thing. I mean, the 15 million isn't that bad. I would have, like James said, I would have taken 15 million at the start of the window if someone said 15 million for Elanga. So I don't think it's that bad of a sale. I also agree with Usman. He probably is worth 20, 25, but it is what it is. And like sort of Cam said as well, in terms of City selling players, because they're so good, you can get more money for them. And Trafford, for a perfect example, played a decent season in League One. If Elanga was in League One last season, I mean, I go to quite a few QPR games. Ethan Laird was on loan there last season and was fantastic. We got 800k for him because we are shit. Like, that is the issue, is that we cannot sell players like that.
It's not madness, Kempy. Don't forget, man.
I've never said Murtough madness. I have never said Murtough madness. I think he's doing all right.
Yeah.
I don't think he's fantastic. I don't think he's great at selling players. I think we've done decent in the window signing players so far, but selling players, it is not fantastic. I mean, I'd take the 6 million for Tellers. That's decent. I'd take the 15 for Elanga. It's decent, but it's not fantastic. I'm not going to sit here and say we've done an absolute blinder. It's average. And we should be better than average, but yeah, we're not, like Cam said, we're not winning titles. We're not winning anything, so you can't add that tax onto it.
You hearing that, James, or are you just gonna not?
No,
not
I completely hear that. I said, I've said all along, do I think we're fantastic at selling players? No, I said that. I said that we've sold 9 players for more than £10 million in 11 seasons. What?
Why were you praising him? Like, why are you going on about like he's done such a good job?
I'll get onto it if you don't interrupt me again, Osman. Like you had a go at me before, but it's fine. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying that we're fantastic at selling players at all. I'm saying that we're better than we used to be, which is what Cam said. I'm saying that we have been really poor for ages, and people are living in this like PTSD world where it's like it's been so bad for so long. Like we talked about Mbappe at the start of the show, I actually think if Ed Woodward was in charge, we'd probably have a chance of signing Kylian Mbappe because it's exactly the kind of thing that Ed Woodward would want to do. He lived on statement signings, big marquee signings, big marketable people. Like he lived by that. But he also gave people daft contracts, daft money, and that's why we can't sell players. So is it Murtough madness? No, of course it's not Murtough madness, but people are slating United for acting in the transfer window, thinking that they're way behind other clubs in how they're acting, and it's just not true. I've said over and over again, Chelsea are putting offers in for Moises Caicedo lower than what was rejected from Arsenal in January. They haven't got a striker yet. Liverpool apparently had a fantastic window, yet I sat here 2 weeks ago and said they've still not solved their 3 gaping holes in right back, centre back and CDM, and they've still not done that. Arsenal have had a fantastic window, but City seem to be messing up the Vardiol thing. There's people that aren't having good windows. Tottenham haven't sorted out the Harry Kane thing, but the only thing I seem to see is, Man United are having a shit window and Man United are so slow at buying players. City were linked to Vardiol after the World Cup. But because no one cares, I tweeted it the other day, no one cares about Man City. They don't get clicks. So people like Romano and people like Laurie Whitwell don't write about City transfers. They don't write because they don't get clicks. So all of a sudden it comes out, City, here we go, Guardiola, and it's like, that's come out of nowhere. No, it's not. They were linked with him in December. If this was Manchester United, we'd have been writing non-updates for 6 months and people would have been going, oh my God, Murtough's taken so long to get this transfer done. Like, Man United are a demon of their own popularity sometimes in the transfer window. We've got fan channels that run transfer shows every single day. So it then becomes a supply and demand thing because people look at it and like, I want transfer news. So they heap loads of pressure on journalists. Journalists then release that transfer news. And because there's no update, because realistically, what happens in a day? Not much when you're dealing with multi-million pound transfers. So they're updating people every day. And then people are saying, they're so slow. Whereas with other clubs, because there's not the interest in them that there is in Manchester United, they give updates less frequently, and it seems like it gets done quicker because there's less stages in between because there's not enough interest in those clubs, and Man United are a victim of that.
No, you're right. I think you're right in the sense of when Man United do have transfer news, it becomes clickable content. It's clickbaitery. It's you know what I mean. It's to deride the fan base and divide the fan base as well. I actually hear you on that point, but I think what you're wrong maybe is that maybe that self-accountability that people are having, I think you're misconstruing it to we're looking at other clubs. I think it's what we want to do and my standards as a football club. Okay, I might have the odd moan and say, listen, man, we've got to be ready, man, because all the clubs are here and they're doing well. But most of it comes down to I know what my United need and I want Ten Hag to be backed. And that's where I think that responsibility as a fan comes from. Nothing that I'm trying to.
I agree. I just think you judge Manchester United different to how you judge other clubs. Like you think other clubs have had a good window,
No.
but if that club was your club, you judge it differently.
No, but the thing is, I can tell you clubs' weaknesses, and I could tell you what they haven't got yet and why they're so slow. For example, Chelsea need some midfielders. Chelsea, I think, still need a striker. I think still need a centre back. There's things going on there, but the overarching feeling is coming from me as a fan. I know what we need, and we need to get that, especially when everything's interlinked now. It's all a domino effect. If we don't get Amrabat now, then Liverpool, who also are looking at certain Amrabat and certain other targets, that's where it's interlinked in that idea. So that's where my frustrations come from in that aspect. Nothing for me to kind of big up other teams. I think they'll do what they need to do because that's what they do. But yeah, we've got a couple of super chats here from Aminur says, Usman, are you happy with Bruno being captain? That's a comment there. Are you happy?
I mean, I think Bruno Fernandes deserves a captaincy, to be honest. I mean, I'm not his biggest fan in terms of some of the things that he does on the pitch, but as I tweeted the other day, I don't think you can undermine his, his work ethic and his fire, his fight for the team in general and the badge. So I think he definitely deserves it. Obviously, he's massively respected within the squad as well. So yeah, I mean, the only other options really would have been Varane and Casemiro, and both of which, for different reasons, aren't the right choice. Varane's hardly ever fit. And Casemiro, obviously, is probably going to be suspended in about 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think it makes sense for it to be Bruno. He did a great job last season as well with the armband, so I don't see the reason to change it. To be honest.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. Got another super chat here. Competent board sell Palestri now for 20 million, stock up, and Yo Woodward would have signed him by now. That goes from there. And Cam, does David Hare deserve a testimonial? Says Amino. I don't think he'll get one, to be honest with you, but yeah, I mean, it's one of them, like, yeah, I don't think he'll get one, to be honest with you. So that probably asks for it. But if he probably should have got one, to be honest with you, at least minimum for being a club legend in my eyes. So yeah. But I don't know. I think Cams doesn't want to answer that one, but yeah, we'll move on anyway. Guys, keep liking the video, people. There's still over 600 in the building, so keep smashing the likes up. Also, Tellez is gone as well. Tellez is off finally off to Saudi Arabia. He's gone to the Ronaldo club of Al Nassr. Done deal. Done his medical today. Here we go. Confirmed. I mean, Kempy, man, like Tellez, yeah. Where would you rank him in terms of signings at Old Trafford? Like we've made, like how much did we actually bought him? I think it was about around 15 million. I think it was around there. But where would you rank Tellez in Man United's overall signings? Like, bro,
yeah, bottom 10%. But yeah, bottom 10% in terms of being an individual player. He certainly made Shaw better and put the pressure on Luke Shaw. But in terms of his individual, how he performed at United, bottom 10%. He was very average. He got fired up for a challenge every now and then, which was great to see. He's great at set pieces, etc. But I think we saw he wasn't Premier League level. Everyone got very excited the fact he could smack a free kick from 30 yards from the top corner, which he'll go and do in Saudi Arabia and score 15. And people will say, why have United sold him? But I think if you're looking at it from what we've watched the last couple of years, it's 100% not United level, and it's not Premier League level either. He could go to Burnley and get absolutely mullered as well. So it's a pace thing of the Premier League, I think, and he just doesn't live up to it. So bottom 10%, but 6 million, I don't think is that bad. I would have taken. I think a lot of us probably expected it would be a sort of termination of contract scenario, which again isn't fantastic, but I think 6 million is actually quite good, and I'll take it. So if we can get 10 million for him and Bailly combined, happy. So. Yeah.
But Bay's another one here. But Cam, you was pointing down there. I mean, he was one of them where I don't know. I watched him at Porto, and he was a player that was involved in everything. To be honest with you, the guy used to be that kind of left back that would bomb on forward, score goals, free kicks, penalties, be a decisive. For me, in the Champions League, you would see him scoring goals. Like this guy was. He was decent for Porto, but just United, just the level up and the pace and intensity, just could never cope, could he really?
No, he can't. He couldn't do the basics. He couldn't defend properly. Every time he tried to defend any sort of situation, 1-on-1, 2-on-1, he would just struggle. He wouldn't do the basic things right. He wouldn't like get out quick enough to players. He wouldn't sort his body shape out. He'd be in the wrong place all the time. And when he had the ball as well, he wasn't much better, to be honest. He was he was honestly one of the worst players I've seen for a long time. I really don't like him at all because I think he couldn't turn. I thought turning cycle wise, it was painful to watch, and I think it shows how incompetent at that point a lot of people in the club were. Because I think what they probably tried to do with that was look at stats for this particular player in this position. They've decided the metric they're going to judge left backs by is goals, and they've not taken out penalties versus non-penalty goals. So he's got a lot of goals. So they've just gone and signed him. I think is what happened because there's no way anybody actually decided to watch him. Not a chance. Because if you watch him, anyone that knows something about football, you watch him, you notice that even if things are outcome-wise going all right, he's getting the basic little bits of his technique wrong in pretty much everything he does defensively, which for a left-back at United, he can't do. Luke Shaw, thankfully, has turned out in the last couple of seasons to be one of probably our few world-class players. He's been, over the last year or so, probably one of the top 2 or 3 left backs in the world, which is a good job because otherwise we would have been in a really dark place with Tellez still at the club.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you, man. I think, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was like 4 million, I was like, but I think we got it up to 6. I think in the end, so we got a couple of million there.
We've scammed them with that. We've somehow managed to scam them. We've got the better end of the stick with that by a long way.
Yeah, I can't really think of a profit for Tellez, man, because he ain't really giving me anything to believe in. Like, I can't even tell him like an attribute anymore, man. Like, it used to be delivery at one point. I think his delivery was decent. I don't know. There was something that I liked about Tellez. I don't know what it was here, but. And then after that, it was like, listen, man, for me, just couldn't deal with the pressure and the intensity. One thing at Old Trafford that he used to just get dragged out wide and just get beat for pace and just positionally not good at all. So, Tellez, I remember we were linked with Reguilon at that time as well. And Reguilon hasn't turned out well, but I think Reguilon would have shown a bit more, better principles in that aspect, you know what I mean? So, listen, man, Tellez, not for me, but can't be anyone that thinks we should have got more for him, or we kind of unanimous on this one. Usman, are you unanimous on this one? Surely.
Yeah, I mean, he's just shit in it, so it's just good to get rid of him, to be honest. I mean, you just compare Tellez and Reguilon, literally dumb and dumber, both absolute watch players. I mean, the only good thing Tellez did was that volley, to be fair, that celebration, so fair play to him for that, but yeah, honest to God, what an absolute flop. The only good thing about it was we didn't pay that much money for him, so it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Another player that we are struggling for some reason, and Nottingham Forest, listen, I don't know what Nottingham Forest think they are, but they need to cough up this money for Dean Henderson. I don't know what they're doing, with these loans. Like, who do they think they are? They've got a player who's 26 in his prime, England international. Pay the money, like. What are you lot doing? Like, Nottingham Forest still want a loan proposal for Dean Henderson. Loan proposal. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, James. Like, I don't know. Is it because of the wages again? Is that what it is? Like, is that what's stopping the deal again? That we've kind of messed up on in that aspect, maybe is kind of biting us in the ass. The wages are too high, and it's a loan is probably better suited right now. What are you thinking?
I think this one is actually to do with Forest and not to do with Man United. I think it's because they're looking at Keylor Navas and they're trying to get him on some kind of deal back rather than any fault that Man United have made in this instance. I think if it was Man United's fault, then kind of you'd look at it and they'd never have been linked with a purchase to Dean Henderson, which hasn't been the case. They've been linked to purchasing before. I think the reason they're changing to a loan is because they think they can get Navas on like a short-term deal and then they can obviously reevaluate and get Henderson later on if they need to. But he's worth every bit of £20 million or £25 million every single day of the week. Sorry.
Easy, man. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think he's worth like, you've got to, like, there's the English tax for a start, and then you've got to realize like his potential. Like, he's been a good goalkeeper. He obviously doesn't suit the way that Manchester United play, but you can't argue that he's not got good attributes. He's a good shot stopper and stuff, and he will do well in teams that get like barraged with shots and stuff. He did very well at Sheffield United, and he will do well at a team that's probably bottom 6, bottom 8 in the league. I think he's worth 20, 25 million to them all day. I really do. And whether they put up the cash or not is a different story. Hopefully they do, because he's obviously got no place at Manchester United. And I don't know what's happened, because Eric Ten Hag's seen him in training now and he doesn't want him. So that famous speech of the reason I don't want to go to training is because if Eric Ten Hag sees me, then he's going to want me to stay. Seems a bit nonsense now.
Yeah, it does, man. You know what I mean? Like that feeling, I don't know, man. I think, and that's what I said with that interview. It felt like to me he was trying to, I don't know, it was bit smug. I didn't like that interview. You know what I mean? But now, obviously, he's been a bit humbled and he's come back, fresh energy. Maybe the David De Gea leaving gave a little bit of pomp and thought he got a bit excited and thought, yeah, I might displace Onana, sorry, De Gea or whatnot, and it's never worked out. But Cam, what do you think? Is it just the wages that's stopping this deal, Cam? Like, because I just think for me, like, why aren't Nottingham Forest going all out there? A keeper who they can just settle down with instead of rotating and whatnot. Like, you've got a good keeper there.
Yeah, I don't get it. I agree with James. I think it's more on Forest, to be honest. I think Navas was pretty poor for them last season for most of the time.
He was,
played.
yeah.
Had some all right saves in certain moments, but I mean, I've been saying that about De Gea. That's not good enough for a goalkeeper. You need more than a few all right saves now and then. I think there's no reason really I can think of why Forest won't pay the money other than just negotiating and hoping that, given how bad Bill was selling players, that we just cave. So I think that's what's going on. I think if it goes on too much longer, I think all it takes is another club to be involved, and Forest will pay the money like that. It's just getting another club involved. This is where we've probably got to be a bit smarter, whether it's Henderson's agent or whether it's United themselves starting to brief the press saying that other clubs are involved, other clubs are thinking about making offers. Every other club does that to us when we're negotiating, but we don't seem to do that to other clubs. So it's one of those where we've got to get a bit smarter with it, and hopefully as soon as we do, Forest just say, right, 30 million, do it now, sorted.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. You're right. I think that's the situation, man. So hopefully Henderson, like I said to you, I mean, I don't know. He again for himself now, he should be pushing Nottingham Forest to get this on a permanent transfer. Like, for himself to kind of settle down now. If you want to be England's number one, if you want to, you know what I mean, like elevate your career and be just settled, man. Just force a permanent transfer, man. That's what I would do if I was him. But again, he just probably wants to play football and see where he goes next season. Maybe he just thinks that eventually he might be United's number one. I don't know, man. Has he got this feeling that he thinks that he might be number one at Man United? Like, because he's from Manchester, he's local lad. Like, do you think there's an alter ego there? Like, I don't know, guys. What do you think? Like, because he's gonna displace Onana. Onana's is his man.
Bro, he's got Mbappe's ego with Teller's ability, man. The guy's an absolute waste, man. I actually can't stand him. Like, I know, I've met him personally on numerous occasions because I used to work at Sheffield United Academy. So I've met him at the training ground. He seemed like a really nice guy, but honest to God, man, just I've seen him so many times at Sheffield United. He used to make so many mistakes, and our fans were not listening when I was saying the guy's not good enough. I mean, for me, like his ego's all up here, and then you see that a lot with a lot of younger players when they're on the stupid wages. And I do think Manchester United didn't help him solve with the wages. I mean, we gave him stupid amount of money at an age where he didn't really deserve it. He hadn't warranted that contract, and he hadn't really achieved anything. And for him to come out and make that comment that James has just repeated about, oh, I didn't want Ten Hag to see me. Who do you think you are, bro? Like, who do you actually think you are? Like, you prime Neuer, you've done absolutely jack shit in your career to be making statements like that. I mean, Nottingham Forest, to be fair to them, they are taking the piss. Obviously, that is their fault. It's not our fault. But at the end of the day, we need to get this guy gone, because if you're talking about ego and Mbappe's ego, this guy's got a bigger ego and he's got no ability to back it up. So for me, I don't even care actually with his price tag. Yeah, I'll probably moan about it, but no, unlike Elanga, just get rid of this guy, man. 15 million, just take it, man. Just piss off. Like, literally, like, he's the one doing the leaks. He's doing X, Y, and Z. The guy's walking around like he's got fucking big balls, like that episode in South Park. You ain't got shit, bro. Like, just pack your bags and dip, honest to God. We've got too many players like this, man. They actually think that there's somebody. They ain't too shit, man. Honestly, get him gone, man. 15 million, take it, man. Not just get rid of it. Honestly, I've had enough.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I think hopefully, like I said, it's a sale, because that could be 20 million in the kitty that we could possibly use. Especially with Amrabat lurking around the corner. I think for me, that is some money that we could possibly need. And then it leaves Fred. It leaves, I think, Maguire, McTominay. I still don't know with McTominay. I don't know, guys. McTominay, is he getting sold? Because I feel like it's gone quiet with McTominay in terms of links, in terms of just generally. I don't know, man. Does anyone see McTominay staying? Don't know.
Yeah, I think you start. I don't think you sell Fred and McTominay. I think if we sell Fred, we still bring in Amrabat. I don't think we sell Fred and McTominay and just get Amrabat. I think that's leaving us a little bit short, just in case. I don't think he's good enough, but I'd keep him for that reason, numbers wise.
Yeah. McTominay, keeping him. I don't know, man. It's one of for me. If it's a squad player, then fair enough. I think that makes sense.
He's not starting. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like
squad
fourth,
player.
fifth choice,
But
and I think he'd be
but
happy
again,
to.
but the thing is, though, again, we need to look at value. Like this is where we're probably doing wrong. Is that yes, we're going to lose the player and we're not going to be settled or whatnot, but then the value then decreases as we go along, and the value of a player who's not being used, and just in general, we get to that point now where we don't sell well because the value of a player, because he's not playing and because he's not providing any sort of, like you said before, Cam, not being part of a great team and a squad, you kind of lose that value. Probably for me, this is probably the best time he's got. 26 now. I'd say the best time to kind of sell him now is right now, especially when West Ham need some players there. I think selling him now would be. I'd rather keep Donny van der Beek. I don't know what it is with me. Donny van der Beek, I think,
Scored a
might be
goal.
more useful than McTominay. I don't know. I
So I
don't.
keep
I
going
think
when
you know
you're
what it is
cooking,
with
man.
McTominay
Ignore
though,
these guys, you're cooking.
because we're not going to use him. No, but hold on a minute, James. Yeah, if we're not using McTominay further forward, I don't see the point in McTominay. I think for me, he's better further forward than he is sitting on the base where Casemiro is. That's what, because I don't want to see him as backup to Casemiro or whatnot. Maybe in a double pivot might work, but again, he's better when he's doing the box to box role. That's just the way I kind of look at it.
Yeah. Listen, I'll preface this by saying I think if a good offer comes in for McTominay, then you take it. If like 35 million comes in, then you take it all day, I think. So I think that's what Manchester United will do if an offer does come in. But on one hand, you're saying, oh, you don't see it because McTominay doesn't contribute in this area of the pitch, but Donny van der Beek doesn't contribute in terms of he doesn't come on the pitch, mate. So you're completely using a double standard. Like Donny van der Beek is Anthony Martial version 2. He scored 1 goal in pre-season. He's done nothing for 3
I'm not
years.
basing on that, by the way. I
He's
don't
not
think I'm
Martial
basing it on that.
2.0.
What's he done in 3 years?
No, but the thing is, the reason why I'm
Martial's
basing
injured,
it on
isn't
it is because no, but you're not, again, James, you're not understanding what I'm trying to say. McTominay, for me, has more resale value than I think Donny van der Beek. That's why I'm saying get rid of McTominay now. Do you see what I'm trying to say now? So McTominay has more value at this minute than Donny van der Beek. So putting Donny van der Beek as maybe a squad player might be better in the long run if you're looking at financially wise. Do you get it?
I
McTominay has a
think
bit more value.
financial wise, yeah, but I think that McTominay has got more of a chance of play. I think he can play in more areas of the pitch than Donny can, and he's got more of a chance. Like Donny is what, third choice, number 10, maybe fourth choice behind Bruno, Mount, and Eriksen. So he's like fourth choice, number 10, whereas McTominay comes in alongside Casemiro as a 6. He could play the 8. He could play 9 if you really, really want him to late on in a game. I think he's more versatile than Donny van der Beek. I think he's available 90% of the time, where Donny van der Beek's available 10, 15% of the time. I will ask you, we're not talking about 2019, 2020 Donny at Ajax, because that guy's a fantastic player. We never got him here. We never, ever got him here. So people like the nostalgic over the player that they saw, he never came. I've said it over and over again, but Di Maria, fantastic player at Real Madrid, man of the match, Champions League final. We never got that Di Maria here. Juan Veron, fantastic in Serie A. We never got that Juan Veron here. Sometimes you just don't get the player that you sign, and that's absolutely fine. But people trying to make up that Donny's done something in a Manchester United shirt to warrant staying is ludicrous. Every time he's had a chance, he's failed. He basically played against West Ham in that League Cup game, and we lost 1-0, and he was poor, and everyone was like, oh yeah, but he's playing with youngsters. He's playing with a midfield of Lingard and whoever else. It's not fair. So then last season, he got 4 games in a row. He got 4 games in a row. I think he got Sociedad away. He got a couple of other games. Did nothing in all 4 games. Looked useless. Didn't contribute. And obviously he got his horrendous injury. Very happy that he scored the other day. Fantastic for him. Clearly meant a lot and absolutely fantastic. But just because you do something in pre-season when no one's got any minutes in the legs doesn't mean you're relevant in a Manchester United shirt. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It's great for him. But Pereira and Lingard scored in pre-season for years. Not good enough.
No, for me, it's what you're saying there. There's bits of it that I think are true. He's had the chances. I think also equally, McTominay's had a chance. What we're kind of doing here, mid versus mid. Let's be honest, man, because I mean, both of them.
McTominay scored 3 winners last season, Saeed. He scored a last-minute winner in the Europa League. He scored a 4-2 winner in the League Cup, and he scored another winner. Donny van de Beek hasn't contributed in 3 years.
No, but I'm saying for the overall feeling at Man United, the significance of both of them. I mean, it's not really. There's nothing for
It's
me
not
to kind of
close.
like.
It's not close. McTominay's contribution at Manchester United is not close to Donny van de Beek's.
No, what I'm trying to say to you is that I don't think it's worth fighting for both of them when you actually deep
They're
in
both
it.
not good
Both of them
enough
for me.
potentially. It's like
Both, and let's
such
be
a
honest, man,
different
they're not
They
good enough
both
for
probably need to
United
get sold,
standards.
Jim. That's it's such a
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, they
conversation.
both
It's
probably
like,
need to get sold. That's the
I
Yeah, I
overriding
agree.
point.
we can get 35
Yeah.
million for McTominay. We'll probably get 5 million for Donny van de Beek. That's basically what his logic
Yeah.
was. It wasn't one is better than the other. Like they both probably need to get
No,
sold
definitely not. One is
realistically.
better than the other.
It was
I
literally
think
because of
both for
SSP. We
me.
need money
They
now.
both,
Yeah.
they both should go. If valuable offers come in, they're supposed to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like both get rid of both. But if you can get 35 million for one, to sell that guy first, isn't it? So it's just simple
Yeah.
as
If
that.
the offer comes in.
100%, yeah.
You should
Yeah.
come and get.
Yeah, well,
him on
that's what I'm saying. We
goodness.
don't know who's going to come in for him yet. I don't know who comes in for Donny van de Beek. I really don't know. Yeah, I mean that's the situation now. United, it's got to that point now where who comes in for certain players like Bailly. There's one situation coming about Bailly. He might be going to Saudi Arabia. Hopefully, we can just get rid of him. Like I'm being serious here with Bailly. Yeah, like would it be a situation of just like even if it's for
No.
free? Like what
Oh,
like what is it with Bailly? Like does anyone know the value of Bailly? Like I don't know what the value of Bailly is. Like I can't again. It's similar with Tellers. I don't think there's a value on him because he's barely played. Like barely played. You know?
You take
get
away,
2, 3, 4 mil.
yeah,
I'd take
whatever
it.
is, just
Yeah, just get rid of him. Whatever you can get for him, just take it.
Bro,
Yeah,
like
bro.
Bailly is crazy. It's a funny signing because when we bought him the first season, him and Rojo, bro, we were so dreams, man. That defensive partnership was crazy, man. And then the next season he had a few injuries, but still played alongside Lindelof. And then Smalling, to be fair, was there as well in that aspect. So, but then the injuries have started to kind of come thick and fast for him over there. Because I feel like for me, he had everything that I think a top centre back should have. He had recovery pace. He was aggressive. He was decent technically. I think he was a good defender, but again, injuries have savaged him. Did anyone not rate him here? Did anyone think he wasn't that great? Like anyone not rate Bailly here?
I thought he was good. He was just mental. He was just absolutely
Yeah,
mental. He
that's
was just
it.
scary to watch. Like just chucking a bicycle kick in the box. What are you doing? Just get it gone.
What a guy. Imagine Bailly and Anana together. Oh my god.
Oh, mental.
Jesus.
Mental.
Can
Can I ask you a question, Saeed? I just like because I'll be interested to know your thoughts on this and everyone else in the panel as well. Like, do you think, and you may say no, but do you think the way we talk about some of our players that have been failures, right? So your Freds, your McTominays, your Maguires, your Elangas, whoever, your Hendersons. Do you think the way that the fan base in general speaks about them so negatively, which doesn't happen in other fan bases as much, do you think that has an effect on how difficult it is for the club to sell them or not?
Oh no, that's wild, man, James. That's wild.
I don't think that's wild at all. I don't think that's wild at all.
You say
So
the
what are you
fans
trying
don't
to say?
criticize the players?
The Twitter tacticals, or the
No, no.
Twitter, the guys on social media that make basically give a critical analysis on them makes the value of a player less. Is that what you're trying to say, basically?
No, I'm not talking about Twitter tacticos, Saeed. I'm talking about like tens of thousands of people slagging off players game after game, and then expecting your board members to go and sell people that you've slated for ages and get a reasonable fee.
No, but the thing
So
is,
you're
though,
blaming
you
the
see it on
fans.
Twitter, though. You don't see it in the pub. That's why I'm using an example on
No, but
Twitter.
you do.
So Twitter.
You do. You see it at the
Come on,
ground.
man.
You see it in the pub. You see it everywhere.
No, man, come on, man. That's a reaction of what's happening. So when you're at the ground, you're critiquing what's going on, or you're giving your reaction. So I think that's natural. Okay, it goes overboard when you have Pogba and after the game, but I'm talking about when the game's on. That's a kind of a natural reaction, and you kind of get. What I think for me, you're right in is social media is a big. Like today, for example, I didn't like the fact that today Sancho. Was it Sancho and Bruno Fernandes? Yeah, there was a video that was put out today
Press ups.
of basically
Yeah,
Bruno
the press
Fernandes
ups.
doing press ups and then Sancho. And I thought for me, some social media accounts should not be posting them sort of stuff because I know what kind of reaction they're looking out for. I just think for me, you're inviting that negativity on a player. And I just thought it was a bit I don't know, man. They know what they're doing, innit? And you know that they're going to get loads of abuse. And all of a sudden, for 2 hours, we're seeing Sancho, this and that. He needs to get da. And I'm like, listen, man, everyone does this. You know, when you're trying to get away from certain stuff, you don't want to do it. You do a fake one, and it's kind of like, okay, fair enough. Like, it doesn't make him less of a professional or whatnot. Like, he does his
It
training.
definitely does.
But, yeah, exactly. He definitely does. Like, he's looking. I think for me, he looks more trimmer than I've ever seen him. Like, he looks good to me. But like I said to you, James, that's where I'm coming up in terms of social media. It's where it's coming from. I don't think it's coming from general, facades of what's going on around the stadium.
I think it has an effect in real life, Saeed. So say, for example, like I'll give a weird analogy, but say like you bake me a cake to take to work, right, and try and sell. You bake me a cake and you tell me it's absolutely shit, and you tell everyone at work that it's absolutely shit. You've told the whole of my office that it's crap, right? This cake tastes like shit. You can hire the best salesman in the world to go into that office and try and sell that cake, and they won't be able to sell it, mate, because everyone knows that it's shit. So like, believe it or not, things have connotations in the real world. If you constantly put negativity and negative shit and you're constantly putting this around a player, then it's going to have an effect. If not on sale, on valuation, it will.
That's not true.
Yep. But
that is definitely true.
It's
100% true. How can you not see that?
Because Mason Mount, bro, like how he got cooked for Chelsea fans all season. The guy was getting absolutely annihilated by his fans, right? And we've just massively overpaid for him. So
for his performances, Osman, no.
He
was getting cooked for his not for his ability.
No, basically what you're trying to say is because his fans were bashing him, or our Man United fans are bashing, let's just use McTominay, for example. Our fans are bashing McTominay, and now it makes it more difficult for other clubs to, come to the table and say, oh, we want to pay 35 million. And because our fans are basically dropping the valuation of him. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. If that was the case, that Mason Mount would have gone for that 40 million. Maybe.
No, but what I'm saying, Osman, is Mason Mount. Like, Chelsea fans weren't saying that Mason Mount is shit. They were saying that Mason Mount is playing shit and he's having a shit season.
Bro,
our fan base say that Maguire's shit, McTominay's shit, Fred is shit. There's a difference.
Do you know Chelsea fans?
I know Chelsea fans. I know quite a few. Yeah.
You know Chelsea fans.
You're knowing them through social media. Not knowing them through.
They were cooking Mount and Havertz and to just rob Man United and Arsenal in broad daylight for both of them players. They'd be massively overpaid for. Havertz, okay, let's not even use Mount then, for example. But you can't tell me Havertz hasn't been getting absolutely slaughtered by everyone and their dog. He's been getting killed on Twitter by rival fans, by Chelsea fans, whatnot. And also,
how much did he go for? How much did he go for, Osman? Can you let me know?
65 million, bro.
65.
Massively
65. So basically.
So I don't.
Mount won 2 players of the season at Chelsea. So if you're telling me that a Chelsea fan sat there and after one season said he was shit, then they need their head looking at.
Trust me, like you can just search
been
on Twitter.
Their fans have killed him.
Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. But you can look, honest to God, they've absolutely annihilated the guy. Mount's been getting killed by their fans.
I think
even now he's getting killed when he's at Man United, do one free kick and they're doing up comps for Mason Mount in a friendly. I don't even know why they're watching us, but honestly, these players were getting killed. I don't think it affects their value as much as you say it. I understand the point that you're trying to make, but I do think in football, for example, let's just use McTominay. Like a lot of football fans don't rate him, but quite clearly managers do because he gets so much interest. So I don't think it pays that much of an impact as much as you're saying. Because like McTominay, like there's that 4 clubs after him and that all good Premier League team. So for me personally, I don't think that fans have as much power as people say in that perspective. Anyway.
Yeah. Going to the Cam, I think you wanted to say something. Did you want to say something there? Or
yeah, I mean, on that, I think obviously the social media itself probably isn't having that much effect at boardroom level. But you've got to remember, particularly with Man United, obviously we're generating probably the most revenue out of any club in England in terms of for these social media. Sorry, not for social media, for general news companies. So if you're journalists, your Laurie Whitwells, your Ornsteins, whoever else, they're scrolling along their social media and all they see is article upon article upon article, or like tweet upon tweet upon tweet about this player being bad. That's when you then get articles in the various news outlets. You get articles on the BBC there was one recently about Harry Maguire. Is this the right time to end his Man United career? And when you start getting that sort of article on a serious outlet, that's when other clubs are going to start looking at it, being like, well, hang on, if even the journalists are saying it at this point, bearing in mind they get briefed by the club, that's when it's going to start impacting the the values that players are going for. And I think that is definitely driven by social media, because if there's no interest in stuff, people aren't doing that for Man City players. Nathan Ake, before the last couple of seasons, was pretty poor. But no one was doing that for Nathan Ake, saying, is it time for Nathan Ake to leave? I think it's only really United that happens for. That's because we are so horrible to our players on social media, which, look, at times some of it's warranted. But I think it is definitely having an impact indirectly in terms of the amount we can get from them. Their reputation and brand is a massive thing. I think if you even think about the marketing aspect, that's going to affect your transfer fee, isn't it? And if everyone in the world thinks you're a crap player because all the previous fan bases said it, that's going to make a big difference. On the Mason Mount thing, I don't think we've overpaid. The Havertz thing, you look at that, they haven't paid more because of anything other than the fact that they're another London club. They're a big rival of the club that they're going to. And actually, as much as Havertz has been getting cooked, I think there is still a player in there somewhere. He's worth, if you're buying a starter at a top 6 Premier League club.
Yeah, but surely it comes based on what you just said about his brand being, obviously jeopardized, so to speak, with all the criticism. But shouldn't that have dropped his valuation?
Yeah, I think his valuation would have been much more than that before, without the criticism.
I don't think so. To get 65 is ludicrous. If you're asking for 70, you just
if you think about how much money they paid for him initially, if you think about how much promise he's got, and I think, look, he's been given a bad rep because he's not playing in his preferred position. He's not necessarily able to finish many chances, but the guy is seriously sharp. He can link up in ways that not many other players can. He was very dangerous at Old Trafford. He just couldn't finish to save his life. He's a really good player, and if you're moving to a rival, your transfer fee is always going to be inflated. That's the way it is.
You know what though? Can I just say, I think really this is the biggest kind of one to kind of explain is, how do we explain Maguire then? Because we overpaid 85 million, and probably United should not have paid that amount. Where's the line then, James? Because could we say that his value would have rocketed anything more than, let's say, 30-40 million for what he's been playing at? Like, how do you explain that one? Because at the end of the day, he's going to get critiqued because he's a Man United captain, and whatnot. Okay, the overboard abuse is not what we need, and any player shouldn't get that. But how do you explain that one? Because again, how are you supposed to bump up the price then when he's not playing well at all? Like, you can't, because negativity is negativity, but he's not been playing well as Manchester United captain. It's a big, big thing,
I genuinely say, don't think you could have picked a worse example for your point. I think Maguire's the one player. I genuinely think Maguire's the one player whose valuation has dropped massively based on what's been written about him in the media. He plays for England. He's been in 2 out of 3 England teams in the tournament.
It's because
Saeed, we've got people like you saying he's worth 20 million. 20 million.
No. But for me, though, you're not understanding the point. What I've
20 million pounds you said he was worth.
But you're not understanding. He's not been playing well, though, man.
He's not been playing. Yeah, he's not been playing. He's like, you can't do anything about that. He's not been playing, so his valuation is going to be less than 80.
He can play better. That's what he can do. He can play better. But let me just stop you there, though. I feel like for me, though, what you're doing is you're focusing more on what the kind of criticism of is and the negativity rather than what the club should be doing and himself as well should be doing in that aspect. I think that's what we should be focusing on more rather than what the fans. Okay, the fans have their duty to be responsible in what they say, but the overriding point is this guy has not been good enough. Let's be honest.
100% he's not been good enough, but if you're saying that not good enough deserves abuse, then you're way wrong. So if you think I'm gonna come on here and sit back while people abuse Harry Maguire, you're 100% wrong.
When did he say that? He started with saying no one.
No. I said for me, no player should get abused. What I'm trying to say is we're concentrating on that more than what we're trying to say in terms of the fee and what you're kind of constituting the two both together. Like, that doesn't equate to it. He's just been playing bad. That's all.
Right, this isn't to defend. Harry Maguire came to Manchester United. Harry Maguire was overpaid for, right? So the valuation was through the roof. Should never have come for that amount of money. Fair enough. But he was signed. You got to remember, Pep wanted him at the time. He was wanted, right? He was a wanted commodity in British football. We signed him. Fan base were happy about it, right? We were happy. You were going off. Harry Beckenbauer, all this. The clips are there. Go find them. So people wanted him. So don't sit back and pretend that you never rated him, because you did. You did. We can bring it up. We can put it on the screen. It's fine. Like, so you rated him.
To
We also
justify
got to.
your point now. You can't use the argument to justify your point now, though. Your point is different to what happened in the past. We're talking about now. I'm talking about selling him.
No, I'm going through. I'm going through it. Saying, like, listen, I'm going through it. I'm saying that Maguire was given the captaincy too soon. Should never have been given the captaincy from Ollie. So that was a mistake. Keep pressure on him. I think he had probably about a good season and a half in a Man United shirt. And since then, he wasn't good. He wasn't good. He was very much not good under the end of Ollie's reign. He was awful under the Rangnick reign. Dropped out of the team. We signed 2 better centre backs, and he's not been able to get in the team. I don't think he was awful when he came on last season when he was given the chance. But there's 3 or 4 people ahead of him in the pecking order. So I don't know what you expect him to do. Like he's trying to win back his place. He's not good enough to win back his place, so he's probably going to be sold. I think Harry Maguire's main mistake at the moment is probably valuing himself too high. That's probably his mistake. He probably thinks that he's got a massive chance of getting back in the team and that he's worth this and he should be playing week in, week out. If Harry Maguire would stay at Manchester United as a squad player and not as captain, I don't think any realistic football fan should have an issue with that. I think he contributes to the team when he plays. But again, people have PTSD and they think he's an awful footballer. He's clearly not an awful footballer. He just doesn't fit into how Ten Hag wants to play. If we get an offer, like I said, 35, 40 million pounds for Maguire, you should take it. But to say he's worth 20 million pounds is just mental. Mental.
If I asked you about Martial, because we have to be, we have to be balanced here. How would you explain that for Martial then?
In terms of what, not playing?
But forget that. I'm just talking about in terms of you're talking about the boost that he gets and whatnot, and that decreases his value and whatnot. Could we say, and I could say my argument is that he has decreased his value because he hasn't been available and he's always been injured. That is the common, like the overarching point. We should stress on that point more rather than what the fans are saying about him. He's not been available. So therefore, we've not got much money out of him, which you made a claim is because of the fans' opinions and et cetera, is why maybe we're not getting money out of the players.
You're now comparing availability in a position. So you're confusing, Saeed, you're confusing availability with playing time. You're confusing availability with playing. Harry Maguire is constantly available. He's not playing.
No, but I'm giving consistent arguments. It comes
down
to
you're not. You're not, because Anthony Martial isn't available. Harry Maguire is available, isn't picked.
That's why he's not. But that's why we can't get money out of him. And the same with Maguire, he's not being good. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's different, Saeed. It's very, very different.
Bro, am I bugging here, bro? Am I bugging?
It's Maguire's fault that his valuation.
Arguments, bro.
No, of course if you're saying the Anthony Martial situation is exactly the same as the Harry Maguire one, and that's why we can't get rid of both for the same reason, that is nonsense. We can't get rid of Anthony Martial because he's on 250 grand a week and has scored 10 Premier League goals in 3 seasons. That's why we can't get rid of Anthony Martial. We can't get rid of Harry Maguire because we probably want too much money for him and he's not played enough recently. But that's not his fault.
No.
But I get that. But
we can't get rid of Maguire because he drops week in, week out. That's why he's not playing.
Because he's not right.
I think that's the case.
No, because he's not playing as a result of his previous performances under Ten Hag. Are we forgetting what happened at the start of the season? Ten Hag gave him his opportunity and the guy completely showed his arse and he was absolutely atrocious.
But that's not how Maguire is a player as. Maguire is a low block centre half, and the reason we can get 35, 40 million for him is because he is fantastic in that system, and he has got that ability to play in that system. You can't ask, City to pay 40 million from now because he wouldn't sit the system, whereas West Ham, where he's sitting on the edge of his 6-yard box, he is fantastic at that. That is what he does, which is why you can sell him for that. Whereas Martial, the argument there is that regardless of where he goes, he's got ability, but he's constantly injured. So you cannot get money for him because that money is worthless. Whereas Maguire,
that's what I was trying to say.
Money. With Maguire, the value is certainly there because...
Yeah, get rid of that chat, Saeed, quick. Get it off the screen.
Yeah, Saeed, you take us off.
Take it down quicker. Yeah.
But the thing is, James, you kind of mixed up your arguments. At the start, you made a point of the fan base and basically the opinions of the fan base is why maybe the club can't get enough money from the players. That was your
100%.
overriding point, right?
100%.
When I said to you, it's not. It's because there's been factors about Martial being injured and not being available, and Maguire not being good enough. Captain as well. The whole feeling about his PR and coming out and whatnot, and the way it's gone on under his reign as the captain at Man United. That's why, and I'm saying that his value has gone down.
I'm not for 1 minute, Saeed, saying that it's the sole reason why we can't sell Harry Maguire. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's a potential that the negative things that are said about him decreases his valuation. That's what I'm saying. Just like the negative stuff that is said about Martial decreases his valuation. But the reason why we can't sell them may be different. The reason that we can't sell Maguire isn't because people slag him off every week. The reason we can't sell Martial isn't because people slag him off every week. The reason is because one is injury prone and one is fifth choice centre back and doesn't get enough time on the pitch to prove his worth. That's the reasons we can't sell people.
No, listen. It's one of them. We have to agree to disagree. But, sorry?
No, sorry.
So you're going to say that was... Yeah. I think it comes down to we have to understand, that the club, what I mean, let's be honest with you, they're doing some good things. I think the introduction of Matt Hargreaves, for me, shouldn't go unnoticed. The fact that he's come in, chief negotiator, this is his first summer at Man United. I think that's been a good acquisition. But there also are some bad points about how we've kind of sold players, the mismanagement of loans, the mismanagement of players as well in that period as well. There are some kind of downturns of the board and whatnot. So there are kind of conflicting situations. It's balances. You've got to be balancing your arguments. And that's why I say I see the good, but I also see the shortcomings of these guys. I think you start, Mike, you're going to say something there?
Yeah, on the loans thing, I think we'd probably get it a bit wrong in that it's not necessarily the loans that are the problem. I think a lot of our academy players just actually aren't good. I think that's the bottom line. I think if you look at, ultimately, if we had loads of really successful players that were fantastic at youth level, really brilliant, and then went out and were crap, and then after their loans moved on, did really well elsewhere later in their careers, great. But I just think our academy players, a lot of them, Zidane Iqbal is not that good. That's why he didn't play for the first team. That's why he went for £1 million. Tahith Chong, pretty poor as well. As in, not poor player. He's a decent football player, but he's nowhere near Premier League level or Man United level at the very least. The vast majority of our academy players, look, I think for an academy, expecting players to regularly come up and be a top 6 Premier League player is a really difficult ask because you're thinking about a really tiny percentage of all the professional footballers. And if you think about how many footballers there are, even the non-pros as well, people that drop out the academy system, that's a minuscule percentage. So it's a tough ask to produce lots of top 6 worthy players. And it's pretty good that our academy is producing lots of players that go on to play professionally elsewhere. But I think we're just overrating people. It's not the loans that are at fault. We're not giving them bad clubs. They put so much work into the clubs that they send these players to. They put so much. It's in the club's interest to try and give them the best environment for their development as possible. It's just the players aren't that good. I think that's the reality with the loans.
I think that's again social media, isn't it? Well, we as a massive, passionate fan base overhype a player and think he's fantastic and the best player since sliced bread. And it goes both ways. We think someone's utterly crap and we think someone's the best. So, yeah. Yeah,
but then this is why as well, also, we've got to have a balance in terms of Ten Hag. Like, he's got Anthony this year that he costs, 85, 90 million. And this is on him now for him to kind of work because he chased this player down. Whereas I think that was because I feel like he felt maybe he wanted his players in now. There's a lot of the recruitment this year, I think it is led by Ten Hag in terms of his player focus in certain players. And he's driving that, Mason Mount, what he wants, Onana, getting rid of David Hay. I feel like he's kind of leading the charge. Obviously, he's got Murtough to help him out in that aspect. But like I said to you, I feel like for me, there has to be a balance between the director of football helping in hand and also the manager giving his ideas and philosophies because, like I said, we've got Anthony and hopefully, he does well this season because he's an expensive winger. So that we overpaid for because the manager wanted him. So I think there's conflicting issues on that one there. But now we've got a game tomorrow. Anyone excited? Anyone buzzing for that? What are you saying? Tomorrow we're beating them. We're smashing Arsenal.
100%. Easy. Gareth Barry in there, James. So.
Well, there you go. Exactly, man. You know what I mean? Kevin said that. What are you saying there, James? Are you confident?
To be honest, it's pre-season, mate. Like, I know people are going to say, it's Arsenal United, the rivalry, all this kind of stuff. The social media derby, the banter derby, all this kind of nonsense. I just think it's a chance to get more minutes in the legs. I really do. I'd like to see as close to the first 11 played in the first half as possible. I think it's going to be a great chance to see Onana probably for the first time. I think you're going to see Mount play with Bruno and Casemiro, which is going to make a big difference. And we're going to have an actual number 9 in the first half, which hopefully should make a big difference to how Mount is able to play, because having Sancho as a false 9 has not worked at all. So there's a few things that I'm looking forward to, but I'm not going to overhype the result either way. I don't think it's going to have any bearing on the season if Arsenal win, if United win. I think it's completely irrelevant. It's nice for the fans to have a bit of banter and a bit of celebration temporarily and stuff. But if anyone thinks it means anything, I really don't think it does. I'm interested to see Rice and Timber and Havertz. Havertz is the interesting one for me, because Rice and Timber, I'm pretty sure, are going to be a success at Arsenal. I think they're both fantastic players. Declan Rice in particular, I think he's world class. I really, really do. With Kai Havertz, it's like I'm not really sure how he works in midfield. I know I don't rate him as a 9. I definitely don't rate him up front in front of goal. But does he have the technical ability? Yes. Was he good in Germany? Yes. Could it be a bit of a masterstroke from Arteta? Maybe it could be. And I'm interested to see Havertz, to be honest, in their team. And then from our point of view, obviously, interested to see Rashford back, interested to see if Garnacho gets a game. Very, very interested to see Onana and Martinez play together at the back and see how some of that works. So, yeah, it should be good. Good to have Manchester United back playing, mate, and not too long until we're back at Old Trafford. So bring it on.
Yeah, Cam, just tactically, do you want to see a bit more in terms of players playing a bit more 60 minutes, kind of? Because I know, listen, we love the youth players, but I want to see a bit more now in terms of 60 minutes for key players and seeing a bit more. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, a key element of me this season for Ten Hag is that I want to see our style of play a bit more consistent. A, home and away, but B, in terms of players now stepping up to their roles and being consistent. The likes of Anthony, Sancho. The forward line, obviously, as well. Midfield as well, obviously, with Mount and Bruno, them having a more prominent role. But how are you looking at the games coming up now? But in terms of Arsenal, they'll be at a high level, man. They've been, obviously, they play MLS All-Stars, but you can tell, though, they're kind of doing their thing, and they're already ahead of us in terms of their style of play anyway. So what are you saying about tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we've done all right so far in terms of, I think with Kovar,
Yeah.
we've been very strong building out from the back. I think you've seen that as a massive change already, and that's with Kovar without not even an honour in yet. I think that's the biggest thing that's going to make a difference, though. The more we can build up from our own goal kicks using our own goalkeeper, the more we can create those sort of transition type situations and get Rashford on the last line, get Anthony running in behind, and that's what Ten Hag's all about. And I think as much as people maybe want to say that last season the goalkeeper situation didn't have that much impact, I think that was the main reason, honestly, that Ten Hag changed his tactics. Because one of the cornerstones for his philosophy is drawing the opposition as high as possible up the pitch, and to do that, you've got to be comfortable playing in your own third. And if the guy that's going to get the most touches in your entire team doing that can't do it, then you've got a problem. So I think that's the main thing. I agree with James, not really too bothered about the result. I just want to see us get the patterns sorted. I want to see players get more minutes, build up more resilience. Hopefully sustain the intensity for a little bit longer than we did in the previous game. That should be another little marker. How long can we keep? Because I think every time we look for a pattern to play, we look for rehearsed things. There's 6 or 7 different movements happening at the same time, loads of different sprints. It takes a lot of energy. So the longer we can sustain that, the better. But yeah, that's what pre-season's about. It's not really... Sure, results nice to have if you can get it, and the finishing's great. But if you think about it in a month's time when the season starts, think about how many more individual finishes every single player has attempted compared to where they are now. There'll be thousands more. So that's why I'm not too worried about how many times we put the ball in the net. It's just the main principles, really.
Yeah, Kempe, lastly, would you, anyone you want to see performing, anyone you want to see, been excited about already? Mino's been good. Anyone else that you think you want to see a bit more of and produce a little bit more?
In terms of producing more, I think James alluded to Sancho in the false line hasn't worked at all. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does tomorrow in case if he starts. It'll be interesting to see what Sancho can do. I'm just excited to watch United again, to be honest. It's nice. It's been nice watching the kids and watching the pre-season in Scotland, etc. But it's nice to go on a proper tour and see everyone back rather than just... And it's nice to see it in pictures and training stuff. So it'll be good to see. It'll be interesting to see Arsenal as well. I've sort of predicted this season they'll move into sort of the Pep 3-2-4-1. I think that's where Havertz comes in, with Havertz and Odegaard behind the striker. Be interesting to see if they try and pull something like that off. It'll be good to see what they can do tomorrow. They do look sharp. They do look locked in. So it'll be good to see that. But yeah, just looking forward to seeing actually a decent competitive game rather than 45 minutes against Leon. It'll be good to see a good 90.
Yeah, man. I want to see a bit more rounded game, man. At least, where you can see a bit more in the second half as well, because second halves have been a bit naff, to be honest with you. So,
it's been tough in it because we haven't conceded a goal, but we've also scored 3, and they've all been from backup / rotation young players. So, it'd be good to see the actual United players out there. You know what I mean? The first team.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I'll be back tomorrow for the watch along, people. So that's why we're doing this a day earlier. So big up to everybody who's tuning in there. He did get a little bit heated towards the end, but James is good. You know what I mean? He's all good, man. He's going to be smiling tomorrow, and then he'll find another player for. I feel like it is. You're playing the protagonist role right now. You know what I mean? I feel like you've got a role now in the fan base to play, so you're playing it well, which is fair enough. So I know your game now. I know your game. Well,
I've got a role on your channel, Saeed. It's you. You're like, oh, fancy debate show later. Yeah, be your positive self. Go on, protect this person, protect this person. I'm like, I'm always going to protect people. And listen, like, excuse me. At the end of the day, like, people are going to have their favourites. That's fine, right? I understand that people have their favourites. They have players that they don't like. That's fine. I've just been brought up in a way that you just support everyone that pulls on the shirt. And I don't, for some, like, yes, I understand criticism. I completely understand that it's everyone's right to criticize. They pay their money, they do whatever, they can criticize. I just don't see in a lot of scenarios how the criticism helps the player when your overall aim is for the team to win and the player has to play for the team. So a lot of the time, and I mentioned it to Cam over his De Gea thing, like while De Gea was still playing, I don't see how that helps. In the summer and stuff, when obviously he can be replaced, it's absolutely fine. But at the time when people are going on negatively about Maguire and McTominay, like I said to Usman the other day, we were in a space and we just beat Leon 1-0 or whatever, and he slips in a sentence about Maguire being a waste of space. I'm like, the guy didn't even play. The guy's not on the plane, like he's not on the tour. Like, why are you speaking about him? And that's the kind of thing in the fan base that does my head in, because it's like he's not there. There's no point speaking about him. I just don't get it at all. I don't get that side of the negativity. I think it does have an effect on players' confidence and stuff like that, and then how they play. So yeah, I am happy. I'm positive, mate. So don't worry about me.
Yeah, no, don't worry, man. Don't worry. What are you saying, Cam? Have you got anything coming up? What you got going?
Just done a video earlier today on Gvardiol, City's possible new signing. So if anyone wants to go check that out, go do so. That would be appreciated. Otherwise, just man. Looking forward to United.
Yeah, definitely, man. Make sure you follow his channel, people. Got some exciting stuff on there. Kempy, pleasure as always, mate.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for having me on. Similar sort of Cam, videos coming out all the time, Football Manager rebuilds and stuff, and brand new PC this week, so the editing has come through the roof. So if anyone watches Football Manager, come over. I'm sure the link is in the description or on Twitter. So yeah, thank you for having me on again, man. Massively appreciate it.
Definitely, man. Yeah, all links in the description, people. So follow up the people. Like I said, people, like the video on your way out. It costs you nothing. Let's get it up to at least 400-500 likes. And yeah, man, I'll catch you tomorrow for the watch along, man. The social media derby is what I call this one, man. You know what I mean? Bragging rights, their long days over, man. This is a social media old classical. So be there, 9 p.m. We will be there.